One of the worst YouTubers tried to sue me. I completely destroyed him. Here's how it happened. Now, Bad Empanada is a particularly sick and disgusting Greek, a Greek Australian Hamas supporter living in Buenos Aires. He boasts hundreds of thousands of followers and he's recently been promoted by the single largest online political streamer, Hassan Piker. This is despite the fact that he has explicitly called for the mass murder of all Israelis, as well as terrorist attacks against Jewish civilians across the world. This man is responsible for a reign of terror against hundreds of people online, a campaign that has now escalated to the point where human skulls have been sent to the address of famous YouTuber Ethan Klein. Bad Empanada has encouraged this terrifying harassment campaign while boasting about calling child protection services on Ethan simply because his wife is Israeli. In my personal case, Bad Empanada doxed my family members before posting my address and phone number to his followers and literally encouraging them to kill me. Somehow he thought this was a good idea prior to engaging a random no-win, no-fee Better Call Saul lass law firm in Australia to try sue me for defamation of character. This was a huge mistake on his part because I work for one of the best barristers in Australia, Anthony Morris KC, the youngest person appointed silk in the entire Commonwealth in the 20th century. And he's previously represented clients ranging from Australian Prime Ministers to Oasis's Noel Gallagher. Anthony Morris KC sent a letter back to his law firm, basically explaining that it was categorically impossible for Bad Empanada to be defamed by anybody on the planet because his reputation was already so deservedly horrible. We added a letter containing hundreds of his screenshots and his law firm dropped him as a client almost straight away. Now, Bad Empanada loves to threaten people with defamation proceedings. This is actually one of his all-time favorite harassment tactics, and he's used this against dozens of people to try silence their criticism of him. He's now trying to do this against Ethan Klein. Now, because Bad Empanada is so insane, I've decided to open source Anthony Morris's legal letter to him. It shows that Bad Empanada has no reputation to be defamed. Remember, when Anthony Morris KC sent this to his law firm, they dropped him as client immediately. Let's start from the beginning, January 2024. Here's his letter. Dear Mr. Pavlu, our client, George Ganitis, defamation, concerns notice. Very fucking official, very serious, guys. We act for Mr. George Ganitis. Watch out. Our client is a prominent Australian social media personality, known for his YouTube videos containing commentary on various political and social issues. Our client first began posting YouTube videos and now has a subscriber base of over 121,000 people. He is also reasonably popular on Twitter with approximately 30,000 followers. Our client received the Don Gibb Royal Historical Society of Victoria Prize in Australian History in 2019. Holy fuck, guys, watch out. And his videos and writings have been published widely online, including by the literary journal Overland, the online magazine Counterpunch, and independent media outlet Ansainik Fon. Wow, fucking huge. We note that you are also a prominent Australian social media personality, well said, followed by approximately 5,000 people on YouTube and 79,000 people on X. Going to defamatory imputation. It is our client's position that by virtue of the offending publications, he has been defamed by you. Watch out. The offending publications carry or likely carry the following defamatory imputations against our client. A, that he has committed one or more crimes warranting arrest. B, that he holds or has held illegal or improper material on his hard drive. C, that he has committed one or more crimes warranting deportation. D, that he is involved with the brutal guerrilla group The Shining Path. E, that he is a rapist. Well said. F, that he is a murderer. Well said. G, that he is a terrorist. Yup. I, that he is a predator. J, that he's in favor of rape. To date, you have failed to apologize publicly or otherwise. Yup, that'd be right. For publishing the offending publications or published any retraction or correction of the defamatory imputations. Yes, again, that would be right because they're all true. Pursuant to section 14.2 of the Act, we are instructed to demand and hereby demand that within 28 days of the date you were served with this concerns notice, you will make a suitable offer to make amends to our client, which includes the following. And this part's brilliant, guys. Really, we really need to emphasize this. A suitably worded apology to our client, first approved by our client. B, an agreement that you will refrain from repeating, circulating, or publishing the offending publications. Again, watch out, guys. C, an agreement that you will, within 48 hours of acceptance of this offer, to remove all videos, posts, comments, and other publications about Mr. Empanada, including the offending publication that you have published online in relation to our client or its products. E, I love how it's just literally a template because what fucking products does Bad Empanada offer, mate? E, an offer to pay our client compensation for loss suffered. And F, an offer to pay our client's costs in respect of the preparation and service of this notice in the sum of $4,238.72. Holy fuck. If you fail to properly respond to this notice and address our client's concerns within the timeframe stipulated above, we will take instructions to commence court proceedings against you pursuant to the Act. i.e. upon the expiry of 28 days of receipt of this notice, without further notice. Now, friends, it's been 16 months since I received that terrifying, scary letter. I have yet to be taken to court by Bad Empanada. He's yet to commence defamation proceedings against me. Why might that be? Well, unfortunately for him, I had Anthony Morris KC step in to represent me pro bono for free because he agrees with my cause. First, I want to just quickly note my response. Dear Sir, Madam, Mr. Pavlou is currently out of office until the 32nd of February. We will endeavour to respond at the earliest convenience. Best regards, wishes, Alexander Matthew Timley Phillips, the 24th. XVI, personal assistant to Mr. Pavlou. Feast day of Saint David Galvan Bermudez, martyr of the Mexican Revolution. Quote, what greater glory is there than to die saving a soul? Saint David on his way to minister to the wounded in a firefight. How beautiful. That was a great message, I think. I think they would have enjoyed receiving that. Now we come to Anthony Morris's letter in reply, which is one of the best letters I've ever read in my entire life. Re Drew Pavlou and George Ganitis. I represent Mr. Drew Pavlou and he has asked me to respond to your letter of 30 January 2024, purporting to be a concerns notice pursuant to Section 12A of the Defamation Act 2005, Queensland. Mr. Pavlou has provided me with detailed instructions regarding the assertions contained in your letter. However, I find it is unnecessary to engage with all the details contained in a lengthy and somewhat repetitive item of correspondence. That is because Mr. Pavlou has no intention of making amends, either in the manner demanded in your letter or at all. If your client chooses to institute proceedings for defamation, Mr. Pavlou will defend those proceedings and will also counterclaim on the grounds canvassed below. No reputation capable of being harmed. Despite the rodomontade contained in your letter under the subheadings background and serious harm, Mr. Pavlou is satisfied that your client enjoys no reputation in Queensland which is capable of being injured by the identified publication. Your letter mentions that your client received the John Gibb Royal Historical Society of Victoria Prize in Australian History in 2019. This prize is largely unknown in Queensland, and any weight which may be given to it as enhancing your client's reputation would depend on the selection criteria for this prize, as well as evidence of its reputational value. More significantly, your letter states that your client is willing to provide sworn evidence. Our client is gratified to receive this assurance as he intends to defend any proceedings on the basis that any reputation which your client may enjoy and any harm which that reputation may have suffered must be viewed in the light of your client's remarks as published to his substantial following on social media. Needless to say, your client will be thoroughly cross-examined on these matters at trial. Without at this stage foreshadowing all of the topics which Mr. Pavlou will plead by way of defence, I attach a bundle of posts made by your client under the pseudonym Bad Empanada. I note that your letter under reply contains explicit admissions that your client is the person behind that name. Collectively, these posts are capable of supporting conclusions that your client, 1, has expressed his open support for prescribed terrorist organisations including Al-Qaeda, Hamas and Hezbollah. 2, is an anti-Semite who has called for the mass murder of millions of Jews across the world and who regularly dehumanises and mocks people of the Jewish faith. 3, regularly defends, makes light of, or mocks horrific atrocities like the Uyghur genocide, the Holodomor, the Russian raising of Mariupol, the Bosnian genocide, and the terrorist mass murder campaign carried out by the Shining Path in Peru. 4, has called on his followers to carry out indiscriminate terror attacks against American and Israeli civilians and has called for the killing of both Israeli and American servicemen and veterans, often in an extremely gruesome fashion. 5, has called on his followers to assassinate the President of the United States of America as well as numerous other elected American officials. 6, has joked about Hamas raping or assaulting Israeli women and girls and has thereby condoned the use by Hamas of rape as a weapon of war. 7, has joked about Hamas molesting or assaulting Israeli infants and children and has thereby condoned such molestation and assaults and their use as a weapon of war. 8, has regularly threatened to kill online critics of Hamas as well as other political commentators on YouTube and Twitch. 9, has committed or alternatively has been identified by authorities in Argentina as a person who has committed one or more crimes warranting arrest. 10, has committed or alternatively has been identified by authorities in Argentina as a person who has committed one or more crimes warranting deportation. 11, holds or has held illegal or improper material on his hard drive. 12, regularly threatens to post the names and addresses of his online critics as a tactic to silence and intimidate people whose political views are different from his own. 13, has sent death threats to Mr. Pavlou and has openly bragged about commencing illegitimate and unmeritorious defamation proceedings against him as a brazen cash grab. 14, has falsely referred to Mr. Pavlou as a rapist and a pedo and thereby defamed him and openly admitted to having regularly invented such false allegations as smears against those whom he opposes politically. 15, has a long history of publicly endorsing child abuse, rape, mass murder, and genocide through his posts, thereby demonstrating that he is a deeply amoral and antisocial individual who poses a very real danger to society. Very well said, Mr. Morris KC. Going on. There are no fake posts, despite the assertion which you have made on instructions. Mr. Pavlu has not and would not create forged or confected posts, whether in the name of your client or in the name of anyone else. All other considerations aside, your client has more than sufficiently demonstrated his true character by posts which he has made without Mr. Pavlu's having to create additional examples. Well said. Why would I have to invent new tweets to attack Bad Empanada when these tweets already exist? In any event, if your client seriously intends to conduct such a case, Mr. Pavlu would invite him to preserve his hard drive in its current condition and have it sealed and notarized so that it may be subjected to proper forensic examination when he comes to Australia for the purpose of testifying at the trial. And this is the best part. Tony used this letter as a kind of Uno reverse card to advance my own counterclaim against Mr. Ganitis. As previously mentioned, should your client choose to institute proceedings, Mr. Pavlu will be counterclaiming for the harm caused to him by your client's publications falsely accusing him of being a rapist and a pedo. For the purpose of Section 12A of the Act, this letter constitutes a concern notice on behalf of Mr. Pavlu. Moving on, the harm that the person considers to be serious harm to the person's reputation caused or likely to be caused by the publication of the matter in question, extreme harm to Mr. Pavlu's reputation having regard to the size of your client's online readership, your client standing as the winner of a prize in history as an author. That part's so good. And just to really Uno reverse card them, Tony uses the claims about Bad Empanada's amazing reputation to say, well, actually, that makes his defamation of Drew Pavlu very serious indeed. 4. The harm that the person considers to be serious harm to the person's reputation caused or likely to be caused by the publication of the matter in question. Extreme harm to Mr. Pavlu's reputation having regard to A. The size of your client's online readership. B. Your client's standing as the winner of a prize in history and as an author published in various hard copy and online publications. Mr. Pavlu's position as a prominent Australian social media personality expressly admitted in paragraph 7 of your letter, and also as a former candidate for election to the Australian Senate, a political activist, a prize-winning student at the University of Queensland, and a person who has been widely profiled in respected Australian and international publications. And D. The principal also expressly acknowledged in your letter that it has long been held by the Australian courts that to be called a pedophile is one of the worst possible things that could be said about someone if it were untrue. Yours sincerely, Anthony J.H. Morris, KC. What a letter. What a beautiful letter. Now, 2 weeks after sending that letter, Tony Morris followed up with his lawyers, and that's when we determined that Bad Empanada had completely capitulated. Drew Pavlu and George Ganitis. I refer to my letter of 23rd February 2024, to which I have received no response. Given that a fortnight has passed since you received that letter, I should imagine that you have had sufficient time to take any necessary instructions. Can you please advise A. whether Mr. Ganitis has any response to the concerns or notice given on behalf of Mr. Pavlu? B. whether Mr. Ganitis intends to institute defamation proceedings as foreshadowed in your letter of 30 January 2024? And C. if not, whether you have instruction to accept service of defamation proceedings to be instituted by Mr. Pavlu against Mr. Ganitis. Yours sincerely, Anthony J.H. Morris, KC. Now, that was the end of it. They never replied. They dropped him as a client and we never heard from them again. Now, in conclusion, I published this legal exchange and this debunking in the hope that it may be of some use to anybody terrorized by Bad Empanada in the future. This guy's legitimately a moral, political, and spiritual terrorist, and he thinks that he has total impunity because he lives in Argentina where the civil court system is broken. Remember, terrorists only have power if you give them power over you. Never capitulate to his terrorist tactics. Hold strong, call his bluff, and he will fold like he folded above. Thank you so much. Most blessed wishes, Alexander Matthew Timley, Phillips XVI, personal assistant Mr. Pavlu, April 23rd, 2025, the feast day of holy, glorious, great martyr and victory bearer and wonder worker George. Behold, I have given you authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. The Gospel of St. Luke 10:19. Thank you. Signing off.